Right. So Arsenal fans have spent the last week absolutely losing their minds on Twitter. And honestly, I get it. David Ornstein, the most reliable journalist in English football, the man who basically invented the words, "Here we go," before Fabrizio Romano did, dropped a bombshell last week saying Arsenal have agreed at all levels to pursue Vinicius Jr. from Real Madrid. All levels. That means the board, the manager, the owner, everyone at Arsenal said yes, let's go and get him. And for about 48 hours, the internet completely lost it. Vinicius in a red and white Arsenal shirt. Vinicius linking up with Bukayo Saka. Vinicius terrorizing Premier League defenses every single week. It sounded incredible. It sounded like the most exciting transfer of the summer. And then Real Madrid basically said, yeah, no. Not happening. Let me break down what is actually going on here because there is a lot of noise and not enough clarity. First, let's talk about why Arsenal even want Vinicius. Arsenal are the reigning Premier League champions. Mikel Arteta has built something genuinely special at the Emirates. But there is one problem that has been obvious for 2 seasons now. Their left wing is not good enough for a team that wants to dominate English football and compete in the Champions League. Gabriel Martinelli scored 1 Premier League goal last season. 1. For the Premier League champions. That is genuinely shocking for a player in that position at that level. They sold Leandro Trossard to Besiktas for £17 million this summer. They brought in Christos Tzolis from Club Brugge for £34 million as cover.
Tzolis is a new Arsenal player, and it's a here we go agreement.
But Arteta clearly wants more. He wants a difference maker on that left side. Someone who makes defenses genuinely scared. And Vinicius Jr., when he is at his best, is exactly that player. 26 years old. One of the best dribblers on the planet. Ballon d'Or runner-up. A player who has scored and assisted in Champions League finals. If Arsenal can get him, they go from title contenders to genuinely one of the most frightening teams in Europe. So the interest makes complete sense. Arsenal need a left winger. Vinicius is the best left winger available. Done deal, right? Not exactly. Here is where it gets complicated. Vinicius is entering the final year of his contract at Real Madrid. Negotiations over a new deal have been dragging on for months without a breakthrough. And when a player is in the final year of his contract at one of the biggest clubs in the world, that is when the vultures start circling. Arsenal spotted the opportunity. They moved quickly. Ornstein confirmed the interest is genuine and comes from the very top of the club. But here is the thing about Real Madrid that Arsenal and everyone else who has tried to poach their players tends to forget. Real Madrid do not sell their best players, ever. Or at least they make it so painful and expensive that most clubs walk away. They did it with Mbappe for years. They did it with Bellingham. They will do it with Vinicius. And sure enough, less than 48 hours after the Arsenal interest became public, Real Madrid made their position very clear. Jose Mourinho wants to keep Vinicius. The club is confident he will not leave this summer. Talks with his representatives are happening this week with the sole aim of agreeing a new long-term contract. Real Madrid basically looked at Arsenal's interest and said, cute. Not happening. Now let's talk about Mourinho for a second, because this is actually a really interesting angle. When Mourinho was appointed as Real Madrid's new manager after the Arbeloa disaster, and yes, I am calling it a disaster because it absolutely was, there were serious questions about whether Vinicius would even want to stay. Remember the Xabi Alonso situation earlier this season. Vinicius was reportedly furious about being substituted during El Clasico. There were stories about dressing room tension. There were rumors his relationship with the club had completely broken down. And then they brought in Mourinho, a manager who has never been known for his warm, fuzzy relationships with his best players. The man who fell out with Ronaldo. The man who fell out with basically everyone eventually.
This is football heritage.
Mbappé came to Real Madrid and had to share the spotlight with Vinicius. Neither of them thrived because of it. Now Mbappé's situation at Real is unclear, and Vinicius has Mourinho telling him he is the main man.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Suddenly staying at Real Madrid looks a lot more attractive than it did 6 months ago. And here is the part that nobody is really talking about properly. Mourinho and Vinicius have history. And not the good kind. Earlier this year, when Mourinho was still at Benfica, they faced Real Madrid in the Champions League knockouts. Vinicius scored a stunning goal and celebrated in front of the Benfica fans. You know how he does. Mourinho was furious. He publicly called out Vinicius's behavior saying, and I am paraphrasing here, when you score a goal like that you celebrate with respect. He even brought up Eusebio to defend Benfica's honor against Vinicius's celebrations. So this is not a manager and player who have no baggage. There is genuine tension there from earlier this year. And now Mourinho is his boss. And Mourinho is apparently the one pushing hardest to keep him at the club. That is either the most unlikely bromance in football history, or it is completely falling apart behind closed doors and nobody knows about it yet. Because let's be real. When has Mourinho ever genuinely gotten along with his best player long-term? Ronaldo at Madrid fell out. Ibrahimovic at Inter fell out. Hazard at Chelsea, relationship soured. Lukaku at Inter and Chelsea, disaster both times. The pattern is the pattern. Mourinho builds something, falls out with his star man, everything collapses. The question is not whether Vinicius stays this summer. The question is whether he is still happy at Real Madrid in January. That is when it gets really interesting. So where does this leave Arsenal? Honestly, back to square one on the left wing. They are still looking at other options. Julian Alvarez has been mentioned. They've been also linked to Spain and Real Sociedad star Mikel Oyarzabal, but none of them are Vini.
Eu tenho que me concentrar muito todos os dias.
Here is my honest take. Arsenal should not give up on this one entirely. The contract situation at Real Madrid is still unresolved. Mourinho saying he wants to keep him is not the same as Vinicius actually signing a new deal. If those contract talks this week don't produce an agreement, and remember they have been dragging on for months without a breakthrough, this story could come back to life very quickly. The window doesn't close until September 1st. A lot can happen between now and then. But right now, as things stand, Vinicius is staying at Real Madrid. Arsenal's dream signing is on hold. And Arteta still has a left-wing problem he needs to solve before the season starts. Here is what I think actually happens. If Vinicius hasn't signed a new contract by the end of the transfer window, there's a higher chance that he leaves next year than signing a new contract during the season. Honestly, the fact that Arsenal even went for Vinicius Jr. tells you everything about where that club is right now. A few years ago, Arsenal were not in the conversation for players like this. Now they are going directly for the best left winger on the planet. That is progress. Even if this one doesn't happen. What do you think? Should Vinicius leave Real Madrid for Arsenal, or does he stay and prove himself under Mourinho? And if Arsenal miss out, who should they sign instead? Drop your opinion in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe to Football Dissected. We break down the beautiful game like nobody else.